Hey guys, it's Matt Deitch, your designated broker at DPR Realty. Last week we took a look at what happens when your seller does not want to give a seller property disclosure statement. This week, let's say you're representing the buyer and the other side does not want to give your buyer the disclosure. What do? Let's take a look at another example live on what's going on with your buyer as it goes down. All right, Leah, you found your house. I'm really excited for you, and we're going to submit the offer. But I want to tell you ahead of time that in the MLS and per a conversation I had with the listing agent, the seller does not want to provide a seller property disclosure statement. Do you know anything about that, or what I'm talking about, or what that means?
Well, to a certain extent. I mean, how am I supposed to know about this house if they don't do that?
Well, you're going to have the inspections, but at the same time, inspections don't reveal everything. I mean, they can't. Inspectors don't move anything when they get in the house. They don't move the refrigerator. They don't look behind the couch. Sometimes you do have to rely upon a seller's disclosure, and that's why we have it, right? That's why we have the seller disclosure. So it gets a little tricky here. All right. A lot of sellers don't realize that by waiving the form, they think they're waiving the disclosure obligation, and that's not true. Okay. I want to make it very clear to you that Arizona law, the law says they must disclose. If a seller knows something and they don't reveal it to you in this process, they're breaking the law. And a lot of times you'll get sellers who've done some work to the property and may or may not have a permit. And they'll skip that section. I'm going to make sure that those items that come up during the inspection, I'll ask expert questions about them, okay? But what do? Okay, if they just don't reveal the form or provide the form to you, first of all, I'm going to email you the form, okay? Because you have to know what's on the form and what you're waiving, okay? It's not enough to simply say, hey, you're not going to get the form, because there's 6 pages of things that could be answering for you. Okay, so I want you to know exactly what's being waived. And even so, in that process, as you read the form, you might have a couple of things in there like, oh, wait a minute. Okay, we've got the roof issues. And what about scorpions? I may have had people with little tiny dogs who are concerned about the owls. So if there's anything that really, really stands out to you, let me know and I'll just try to broach it verbally. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to email you the form. Email it back to me if you would, that you got it and you took a look at it. It's very important to me that you take a look at the form that you're waiving, okay? By law, by federal law, they have to provide the lead-based paint disclosure. So they're not going to ignore that one, okay? They have to by law. So here, though, they're waiving the form, thinking probably they're waiving their obligation. I'm going to make that really clear to them as well, all right? So also, if they don't disclose something to you and you move it to the house, and you find out, hey, this is obviously something that the seller knew about and did not tell me. This has happened where there's an evident leak, a really self-evident leak coming down from the attic, and they knew about it, going through the walls, they have mold. There's behind the wall plumbing issues they say they've never done. You get behind the wall, it's fresh plumbing they just did. Okay, so there's some things that, of course, the seller would have known about, and they didn't tell you. Okay, and sometimes, if there's a question that arises, we can talk to perhaps people that know about the house. One time I literally had a seller state to a buyer of DPRs that they knew nothing about a pool deck problem, that this is brand new to them. We actually found the pool company who said they've been out there 4 times already. We caught the seller in a lie, just a direct lie about disclosure. It can be done, it's difficult, but it can be done. Sometimes hunting down what the seller actually knows. Okay, but the contract does provide for rights for you after the close of escrow, that if the seller did fraudulently, basically frauded you out of with the disclosure issues, we can go after them. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. But right now they won't do the form. I'll tell you what, let's write some language into the contract. Okay? Here's what people normally put into the contract. Seller and buyer agree to waive the seller property disclosure statement. And they stop right there. But we're going to add some language for you. All right?
Okay.
Because I want to be very clear to everybody in this.
Yes.
Seller and buyer and all parties acknowledge and understand that seller disclosure is an obligation of Arizona law. That by waiving the form, the seller does not waive their obligation under the law. And the buyer also stating that the items in the seller disclosure statement are material to the buyer. Okay, I think that makes it very clear what's important to you. It makes it very clear that the seller's obligations under the law, what they are, because sometimes you don't have listing agents who understand that. So in a way, we're kind of sending a message to the seller, you still have an obligation under the law. Okay, makes it clear to them.
That's good.
Okay, all right. So it protects you. Sometimes it informs the seller, and sometimes they change their mind because the listing agents haven't counseled them correctly. All right. So we put that message in there to everybody that, yeah, it's the law. All right. So if they do decide to give you a seller disclosure or anything like that, or if there's anything really material to you that pops up during the inspection, or as you read that form, let me know. I'll go put it in an email saying this is really extremely material to the buyer, and we have good reason to believe the seller knows. Okay, I'll go for it.
Thank you.
I'll get it as much as possible. I'm here to protect your interests as a buyer. It's a really awkward situation, and so because of that, we got the general inspection, and I've already really going to recommend some special inspections for you because we need to do that when you have less disclosure. Is that all right?
Right.
All right.
Sounds good.
All right, sounds good. All right, thank you very much, Leah. I'm excited about it. We'll get you to the house and do a good job.
Thank you.
All right.